Hi, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the co-founder of Digital Leadership Associates. I'm also author of the book, Social Selling, Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers. With me today, I've got Joanne Black. Joanne and I are going to talk about referral selling and the importance of that. I think it's something that I certainly haven't used enough of in my career in the past, but I use a lot of it now. So, Joanne, as we always get the guests to introduce themselves first off, so give us tell everybody who you are and where you're from and how they can find you.
Joanne Black, America's leading authority on referral selling, and Tim, sometimes you and others say the world's leading authority.
I would say the world's leading authority, Joanne, of course.
Of course. And I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. You can find me on my website, nomorecoldcalling.com, at Referral Sales on Twitter. And please invite me to connect with you on LinkedIn and say that you saw this broadcast.
And I do ask people to connect because you are a great you're a great builder of relationships and on social, and it's kind of how we met and then we met physically in London when you were over, which was fantastic, and we've carried on the relationship, and you are a big relationship person. So no more cold calling. I don't get this, according to LinkedIn, every time I go onto LinkedIn, I'm told I should be cold calling. So what's, and you wrote your book years ago.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily social media that's made that's the impact. What is it why is it that we don't need to make cold calls?
Well, very simply, it's because how many touches does it take to reach someone? 8 to 15. And then you're pitching. The referrals are amazing and even more important today. So you're right, Tim. I wrote that book 10 years ago, but the process is exactly the same. A referral means you receive an introduction to exactly the person you want to meet. And when that happens, you get every meeting in one call. No wasted time. They tell you the truth. Your sales process shortens. You rarely have competition. The conversion rate soars well over 50%. In fact, in the last year or two, people tell me it's more than 70%. Now, there's nothing that comes close to that, Tim.
I was amazed when you talked about that on the phone. I mean, I saw some reports recently about email, and people, email marketers are going, oh yeah, I'm getting a great conversion rate, and it's like 0.01 emails you send out, something like that. How is that a good conversion rate? Everybody just deletes emails, but 70%. Right. I mean, this is, why aren't we all doing this?
Oh, there are a lot of reasons. One of them is that a lot of sales executives say to me, well, I just tell my salespeople to go and ask, and that doesn't work.
Right.
So here's what people need.
Yeah.
They need 5 things.
Okay.
The first is that referral selling must be a strategy. It's a strategic initiative of a sales organization or of a company.
So it's a top-down approach.
Exactly. And it becomes the number one outbound prospecting strategy.
Right.
That's number 1. 2, referrals must be part of our sales process. Referrals become the way we work. We don't need anything extra, Tim, right?
Yeah.
So referrals are part of our sales process. And 3, we need metrics around referrals, because obviously if we don't have metrics, nothing's worth doing. And I believe in activity metrics as well as results metrics. So we need to measure the activities that are going to get us to those referral results and the 70% conversion rate.
Right.
And then 4, referral selling is a skill. It's actually a behavior change.
Yes, it is.
Right. And we take time. We need to build the skills. We need to practice. And that goes into number 5, which is implementation. Now, you and I both know that the best laid plans, unless we follow up and we're consistent, nothing happens. And that means that these behaviors are reinforced and coached on a regular basis. Those 5 categories are what it takes to build a referral business where you get the kind of results we just talked about.
So that strategy, metrics, part of a methodology, a behavioral change, and in the implementation. Just reading off my notes, right?
Yes.
So that's really brilliant. So explain to us what's a good process for how you get a referral and what a good process of that looks like.
You said in the beginning about building relationships, and that's why people buy. And we know the people buy us. So we don't pitch product. When we have a relationship with someone, and that's not kind of a fuzzy term, but we all know when we have that. And social media, to me, is a place to begin a conversation and begin a relationship.
Yes.
And that's why you're active on social. That's why I'm active on social. I have begun meeting people that way. And then we take the conversations offline. And when it's important enough, we show up.
Right.
We take the train, we get in our car, we take an airplane, and we meet face to face because nothing beats that. And that's particularly important in our tech world now. And even more important of relationships today, because everybody's sitting there typing away. And those of us who get the introduction are having the conversations that count. We get the business.
Yeah, I think some people miss, and they think that social is all about how many relationships they have. So it's about having 1,000, 2,000 connections on Facebook or however many followers it is. And actually, it's if it's about business and it's about relationships, then it's actually about quality of relationship rather than quantity. And,
absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and it's about making sure that you're building those relationships. But I think that quite often what people do is that they forget to actually take it offline. There's a certain amount of they're connected to me now, right? I'm going to move on to the next one. They collect contacts or followers or connections.
And that's a similar problem with the way a lot of sales organizations are managed. So you'll have, as an example, you'll have an account executive that makes the relationships multifaceted, brings in the team, meets a lot of people in the organization, closes the deal, and then it's handed off to account management or customer success. And then the EE goes to the next one.
And they move to the next one, yeah.
But that doesn't work because as an AE, I have the relationship. And if I just move on, I am not using that as an opportunity to ask every single person I've met in the sales process for a referral.
Right.
Yes, internal as well as external.
And that's a really good point. It's about not just going to one person, but asking everybody.
Well, yes. And here's what happens a lot of times. We say, oh, that person wouldn't know anyone, especially when we have a very complex technical solution. But we don't know who people know until we ask. In fact, one of my clients said to me, she lives in this small state in the States, Rhode Island. And she said, well, my next door neighbor's a grandmother. Her grandchildren come, she bakes cookies. She wouldn't know anyone. And I said, well, what's the harm in asking? What do you have to lose? She said, I'll do it. And then she came back to me and said, you won't believe what happened. I explained who I wanted to meet. And she put her hand on my arm and said, honey, you need to meet my son.
Right.
You don't know who a college roommate is, who their running partner is, who their trainer is, who their CPA is, who their next door neighbor is, who they used to work with. I mean, you just don't know any of that. It's our choice about what we put on LinkedIn. You don't know if I have children, if I do, are they in the workforce? We don't know so much about people. We need to, what I say, ABA, always be asking.
Right. Okay. And so when you talk about a referral, what is it that you mean? So when you're asking for something, what is it that you need to go and ask for?
Number one, you need to be clear about the business reason you want that introduction. Okay. So Tim, you might introduce me because, oh, Joanne, I know you, I like you. Maybe we have or haven't met in person. But before you could ever introduce me, you need to share with your contact the business reason why they should talk to me.
Okay.
And typically the problems that sales executives face are, we need a consistent stream of qualified leads, and my salespeople aren't getting meetings with decision makers. Mm-hmm. And referral selling addresses both of those and more. So you're going to talk about that. And then I'm going to explain to you my ideal client, exactly who I want to meet. And now here's the trap a lot of people fall into, that we are afraid if we don't say everything that they won't be able to think of someone.
Yeah.
But the opposite is true. The narrower our focus, the easier it is for someone to introduce us. And
right.
After all, right, we have so much today. We can go on LinkedIn and see their connections, but we don't know if they know those people. So if you were to introduce me, you'll be very clear about the business reason, which I just described. And then I'm going to explain my ideal client, which is, I want to speak to the head of sales or the CEO who has a field sales team of 5 or more salespeople. Right? That's the first hurdle there.
Yeah. And it's very, very clear and focused. Yeah.
Yes. And then a lot of people will say, well, what industry, Joanne? Well, look, Tim, if I said technology, way too big. But if I say software sales, understood. And I might name a few companies. Now, here's the other thing. A lot of people think that wherever we are, that's where we want to work. So, Tim, I put you as, you want to work in the UK. People will say to me, well, Joanne, do you only work in California? So, no, I prefer North America. But if the client is right, have airplane will travel. I will be there. So that helps you, Tim, then think about your connections, about the best person for me to meet. Is that clear enough?
Yeah. For me, yes, I think that's excellent. Yeah. And so when you ask, so you're being very focused, and I think it's important because what quite often we tell people when they're asking for recommendations. I don't want to use the word referral because it makes, when you're asking for recommendations on LinkedIn, when people say, oh yeah, write one and I'll just agree it, don't do that. Get the person to actually write it, because you'll be amazed at actually what the person will write. Because I'm English, I'm always very modest. We drink tea and we're very modest about things. And, we'd write something like, Tim kind of did the project quite nicely and stuff. Whereas I've had some people write just amazing things about me that I never would have thought of. But just being focused, I think, from going back to what we're talking about in terms of referrals, understanding your ideal customer criteria and saying, I want to talk to this type of person in this organization makes it very clear.
It does. And the trap we fall into, well, do I just work with software salespeople? No. But if I started listing and saying, well, Tim, I work with consulting firms, I work with professional services, I work with financial services, I work specifically with banks. I mean, it's just too much all over the blog. And maybe because of where I live, there's so much tech in the Bay Area. But that doesn't exclude others. And so we need to err on the side of being specific, because that's going to help you think of someone.
Yes. And one of the things that you said to me when we were preparing for this was that was to ask for it. Don't do it on LinkedIn or there's a particular way that you said that you needed to do it.
Oh, yes. You need to have the conversation. So I say never, ever, ever ask for a referral in any digital format, because they're really personal. And I want to have a conversation with you about who you know and why I want to be introduced. And then during that conversation, I'm going to say, Tim, how can I help you? Now, it may not be to a client, but it could be something like, oh, you want an introduction to someone about marketing. You're an author. Maybe people who aren't authors have asked me, can we talk a little bit about how you wrote your book? So there's all different kinds of value we can provide. The LinkedIn, I think, has stripped away with a new interface the ability to ask someone to refer you.
Yes.
I just flipped out at that when I saw it, because people told me when they received those requests, they were totally annoyed. They're just assuming that that person would refer them. We miss out if we don't have that conversation. In fact, I was introduced to someone because I saw on LinkedIn he was connected, and I had a phone call with him. And he said, I don't know that person, Joanne, but tell me who you'd like to meet. And he made the introduction to someone else. And to this day, I am still in conversation with that person, a wonderful colleague. That never would have happened unless I'd had the conversation.
And the other thing that you said to me was that, when you're going through the referral process, always make sure that that you update the person in terms of the referral.
Yes, so it's that whole feedback loop. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is if someone gives you a referral and you speak to them and say you close business and the person who gave you the referral never knows what happened. Well, they're not going to refer you again. You need to circle back. First of all, you need to thank them.
Thank them, yes.
Handwritten thank you note.
Yes.
All right.
Should we say that again? Handwritten thank you note.
Yes. And even if your handwriting is lousy, you still need to write it and show your appreciation that way. And even if it doesn't turn into business, you still update them on the progress you've made. Though I have an email to send today to someone who introduced me to let her know that, in fact, the person she introduced me to, she and I are having a conversation next week.
Right.
So I'm updating her on the process. We can't forget that.
So even though you're just having a conversation and it's not that the closed business, you're making them aware. And I think, if you're, if the person has referred you, there's a trust. You're forming a bond of trust.
That's right.
And that person is going to be interested because, in a way, they're only referring you because they believe that actually what you want to do or what you say you're going to do is going to be good for the other person. And they kind of want to make sure that that's all gone through and happened.
Well, exactly. In fact, this referral I just mentioned, a colleague of mine was speaking to her client, and this whole topic of referral selling came up. And the woman said, well, we need to do that here. We're not doing it. So my colleague made the email introduction because the other person said she wanted to talk to me. And now we have a phone call. I mean, how simple and wonderful is that? Can't beat it. And you said something before about the quality,
yes,
not necessarily quantity. So for most of us in sales who sell complex solutions, think about how many new clients do we really need in a 12-month period? Probably not 100.
I always say to Adam, my co-founder, we need one.
One.
We don't need 1,000 leads is actually a problem for us.
Yes.
We just need one that's, a large organization that wants a long-term relationship with a company. That's, but we don't need 1,000 of those.
Well, there you go. And so if you do the math, and let's make it simple. Let's just do this very conservatively. Say that in a year, you'd really want 10 new clients, whatever our business. I'm just using this for the sake of an example. Well, that would mean you want to ask 40 people for a referral introduction. Why? And totally conservative, because let's say that 20 of them say, Tim, I'd really like to help you, but I can't think of anyone right now. But say the 20 you ask give you that introduction to the person you want to meet. And working with a very conservative 50% conversion from prospect to client, that means There are your 10 new quality clients.
Right. So why aren't we doing this?
Well, there are a lot of reasons.
It just seems like really straightforward to me.
Well, it does. But one of the things I mentioned is that a lot of sales leaders don't realize it is a skill and a strategy, the 5 steps I've mentioned.
Yeah.
But what typically gets in the way, even with those in place, is ourselves. Because referral selling is the most personal kind of selling we can do. When you think about it, we put our reputation on the line. And we're saying to ourselves, our self-talk, well, what if they say no? That's the biggest fear, because that's personal rejection. The other thing that I hear is, well, if I have to ask, it must mean my business isn't doing so well. So I'm not going to ask. That's lame. And then people say, well, it's a client, and what if they weren't really happy with the job we did? So I'm not going to ask. And we're the ones that get in the way. And what gets us over that is building skills. Excuse me. That gets us over that. And it takes practice, disciplined practice, and reinforcement and coaching to continue to refine the skills. That's what it takes. And that's why it's important for the head of sales or the CEO to say, this is the way we're going to work. We're going to decide who's going to be involved. We're going to measure. We're going to hold you accountable for certain results. And now, who wants to be involved in this referral strategic initiative? And so the group knows this is serious. This is not something that's going to go away.
Yeah. And I think it's important that they, because quite often the way that initiatives are implemented in organizations is that somebody says, we're going to do this. And everybody goes, yeah, it's only going to be for the next quarter, and they're going to move on to something else. So we're just going to go back to doing our day jobs because, it will be next quarter, it will all change. But I think that, having that backup of having the coaching, because I think there's a number of people that would be watching this going, I see it's a really good idea, but I'm not really confident of doing that. So the coaching element must be really important in giving people the confidence of asking for it.
Well, that, and you think about in our personal lives, or you think about sports. I mean, every athlete not only has one coach, they have many coaches. And I say sometimes, why do we even need a trainer at the gym? I mean, yes. the equipment's all there.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
But we need to show up. And if we paid for that session, we're going to show up. And the trainer continues to refine what we do and push us a little bit more. And so we have coaches all over the place in our personal lives, and we need to apply that to our professional lives. So there is this gap, Tim, with everybody saying referrals are absolutely the best business. No one has ever countered that. They love them. And I ask audiences all the time, whether I'm working with a client or I'm speaking at an event, what happens when you get a referral? And it's all the things we talked about. Right? They're pre-sold, you have trust, the sales process shortened, there's no cost, the conversion rate's well more than 50%. And then I say, well, do you have a systematic, disciplined referral program with strategies, skills, metrics, and accountability for results? Now you can guess the answer to that question. Right? It's no. It's been no for the last 20 years. Yes. So on the one hand, we're saying best business. On the other, well, it kind of happens, but it's not the way we work. So that is the reason I founded No More Cold Calling and developed the process, the discipline, the system to close that gap and make referrals the way we work every single day so that we make our sales lives easier. We build relationships and we close amazing deals.
And generate more referrals.
That's right. More and more.
Yeah. Joanne, that's been fascinating. Fantastic. Thank you for taking us through that. Just so the 5 steps again were strategy, metrics, being part of a methodology, understanding that it's a behavior change, and then the implementation of it.
That's correct.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about or leave with the audience in terms of referrals?
They're even more important today because there's so much dependence on technology. And my belief, my core belief as a salesperson, my job is to generate only qualified leads and to get in before a prospect many times doesn't even know they have a need.
Yes.
Because then, right, you're in there, you're building the relationship. They tell you things they don't tell anybody else. Many times there's no competition, but if there is, we have the inside track. And I say then, when we do all of those things and get in early and set the stage, the deal is ours to lose, right? Because we are in. And so to think about how many deals do I need to have in the next 12 months, 6 months, whatever time frame, and then build a plan for how I'm going to get there with referral introductions, with phone calls, with conversations. To me, I get that marketing now is sending personal emails. I think that's the wrong term, Tim, because I don't know how an email can be personal.
No.
I mean, it's it could be targeted. It could be a follow-up to whatever they've done. But personal is human beings. It's us. And that's why sales is so exciting. It's our ability to get in there and talk to people and have conversations and uncover the real issues, which is not always the first one we hear, right? And
Yes.
then for me, I say, be willing to walk away if it's not the right fit. And walk away, I don't mean disappear, but refer or recommend someone who is the correct fit. That's what a top salesperson does.
Yeah, a top salesperson should actually be so passionate about their customers' company and business that they kind of will do.
I just lost you.
It's okay. I think that a salesperson should be so passionate about their particular customer's business that they should actually be helping them.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the most flattering thing that you can do with an organization if you can say, if you're referring and saying, actually, this isn't the right fit, but I actually know somebody that's looking for one of these at the moment. Can you, I'm going to refer you on.
Isn't that amazing when that happens?
Yeah.
Yes. That's the trust that's built when you get that referral introduction.
Joanne, thank you so much for today and your time. Remind everybody again where people can find you.
Yes, so they can find me at nomorecoldcalling.com. I'm also, my email, it's Joanne, JOANNE, at nomorecoldcalling.com. And I am going to give my phone number because I believe in conversations. It's +1, if you're out of the States, area code 415-461-8763. Remember, I'm on Pacific time, but I'd love to hear from you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Joanne, for your time today. Great. And have a good Friday.
You too. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Joanne. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.